This is probably the most sensitive but also most important rhetorical analysis that I probably will ever make. Warm welcome everybody to another rhetorical analysis with me, Philip Rhetoric, the stuttering rhetorician. And this is the first non-Swedish rhetorical analysis that I have made in a while. And I'm doing this because of the circumstances that we are living in right now. War is raging in Europe. And during times of war, as a cliche as it might sound, there are both villains and heroes. In this case, the villain is obvious, and for the context, he doesn't need to be named. But the hero is a man and a person. Through his speeches on social media and to US, Swedish and Britain and UN Congress, he has taken the world by storm. And he will, believe me, be one of the best rhetorical examples in the 21st century. I'm talking, of course, about President of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelenskyy. And when I'm saying that this is one of the most sensitive and most important rhetorical analysis that I've ever made and probably will ever make, that's because I know that there might be some of you feeling, is this really appropriate? Let me explain the reason I'm having for making this video. We all know by now that the most important tool that we as humans have to use is our voice and our way of communicating. We need more good people like Volodymyr Zelenskyy to know how to communicate, to know how to reach out with their message and be great in rhetorics. Because we all know, we can just look back to the Second World War, for example. What happens when bad people use communication, rhetorics, to do bad things in the world? And I also would like you to see this video as a tribute to the hero in the world right now and for years to come, President Volodymyr Zelenskyy. We will start by going back to the day of the invasion. That speech started like this.
А дальше по-русски. Сегодня я инициировал телефонный разговор с президентом Российской Федерации. Результат – тишина.
First off, he's starting off his speech with a pause. Now the pause is, I bet, strategically planned here in the beginning, because what it shows is that he's in control. And whenever you pause, you increase the focus in your audience. So by just pausing here for a few seconds, our focus of what he's about to say is increased. And everything about Volodymyr Zelenskyy is absolutely fantastic because you all know the backstory, the comedian who became a president.
He's a former comedian who was a political novice, and now he's leading his country in this fight for survival.
Zelensky's showbiz career was all comedy and light entertainment, including in the popular Ukrainian TV show, Servant of the People, he played another unlikely president, a teacher suddenly elevated to the highest office after a private rant about corruption goes viral. In real life, his political party uses the name of the show as its own.
Everything about him says that he's trained in the art of rhetoric. He's the best public speaker in politics for many, many years. He is up there with Barack Obama. And I believe that that is because he's not a politician from the beginning. He's a trained actor who knows how to reach out with his message. At the end of this sentence, he's using a rhetorical question.
Результат – тишина.
He's also using rhetorical questions in this powerful part of this speech.
Кто от этого пострадает больше всего? Люди. Кто этого не хочет больше всего? Люди. Кто может этого не допустить? Люди.
Rhetorical questions are not meant for the audience to answer themselves, but to make them think about the answer before you say it. And rhetorical questions are composed in that way that it's very hard to argue against someone who's using rhetorical questions. Volodymyr Zelenskyy is also the king of using anaphora and epiphora. I know I talked about this in some of my previous videos. Anaphora is the repetition of three in the beginning of three consecutive sentences and the end of three consecutive sentences, just like he did here. He also used anaphora at the Grammys.
We defend our freedom to live, to love, to sound.
But most importantly, what happened after that invasion speech at the end of February? He changed out from the suit into the military green shirt. That is perhaps one of the most powerful things that any political leader has done in many, many years. And it really shows the impact a change of clothes can have. He's no longer the authoritative president in a suit sitting in a palace. He's the humble president, the leader who is at the front line fighting for his people's freedom. And everything about that is represented in the green shirt. And you should really learn that, because what you're wearing is extremely important in how the audience and the people around you will perceive you. Another thing that Volodymyr Zelenskyy has done is creating relationship and identification with the audience that he is speaking to. It started out like this in the invasion speech at the end of February when he spoke to the Russian people.
Заметьте, я говорю сейчас, многие из вас бывали в Украине. У многих из вас есть родня в Украине.
And this is extremely skillful, to build relationship with your audience by using something called the identification method. By bringing up things that your audience can identify themselves with is a way of building a relationship to your audience and making the bond between them and you stronger. Just look at how he did build relationship by using the method of identification in the speech to the US Congress.
Remember Pearl Harbor. Remember September the 11th. Our country experienced the same every day.
And this is how it looked and sounded when he addressed the British Parliament.
Бути чи не бути?
Who said that? William Shakespeare, of course. That is using quotes to create identification. In the speech to the US Congress, he's used a historical event to create identification and relationship with the audience. And he's continuing to do this by using something called paraphrasing. Look at how this sounded when he continued his speech to the British Parliament.
Ми не здамося і не програємо. Ми підемо до кінця, ми будемо боротися на морях, будемо битися в повітрі, ми будемо захищати нашу землю, якою не була ціна. Ми будемо битися в лісах, полях, на узбережжях, у містах і селах, на вулицях, ми будемо битися на пагорбах. Я хочу від себе додати, ми будемо битися всюди, на териконах, на березі Кальміуса і Дніпра, і ми не здамося.
That powerful paraphrasing is of course from Winston Churchill, the former British Prime Minister during the Second World War.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields, we shall never surrender.
Important to know about paraphrasing is that it's not really quoting somebody, it's a rewrite of somebody else's quote. And that is a great way of borrowing ethos. Talk about someone by paraphrasing, quoting someone that the audience already believe in. You are able to ride on that person's way of faith and credibility. Now, I'm not saying that Volodymyr Zelenskyy needs to borrow anyone's ethos, but this is a rhetorical skill that you can use. If you want to connect with an audience, if you want them to believe in your message, you can quote or paraphrase somebody that the audience already believe in and connect that quote or paraphrasing, rewrite to your message. He also used quotes and paraphrasing at the Grammys. Who is he quoting and paraphrasing right here?
But I have a dream of them living and free, like you on the Grammy stage.
Martin Luther King, I have a dream.
It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream.
And being Swedish myself, I of course watched when Volodymyr Zelenskyy addressed the Swedish Riksdag.
The blue and yellow flag now is probably the most popular in the world right now because this is the flag associated with freedom. Your blue and yellow colors are not only colors of Ukraine, these are also colors of Sweden.
I want you to know by showing you these images and these speeches, showing you how you can build relationship and identification with your audience, no matter what your message is. Can you use quotes? Can you use paraphrasing? Can you refer to historical events or people or even colors in order to create a stronger bond to your audience? Do that. Use that rhetorical skill, because that is not only useful in times of war, but also for your personal growth and development. Some other aspects of how Volodymyr Zelenskyy is reaching out with his message is viewed in just short ways, just like this when he is greeting the journalist at a press conference.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Hi. How are you? Thank you. Not bad.
Don't you just love this guy? What kind of president is just sitting down, pulling out a chair, speaking to the journalist on the same level, showing that he's not authoritative, you do not need to fear me, I'm not superior to you. I'm one of you, I'm one of the people. And that is a way of building trust. So if you want to build trust with people, pull out a chair, sit down, look them in the eyes, smile, shake their hand and talk to them. When it comes to body language, Volodymyr Zelenskyy is fantastic. Most of the time we see just politicians not using their hands at all. They're stuck to a speaking chair, probably just grabbing it. Not Volodymyr Zelenskyy, no. Not only is he sitting down and building trust, he's using different kind of gestures to emphasize his message. Like this is called a baton gesture. It is used to emphasize exactly what you're saying, to hammer in the message.
Якщо нас не станеться, не дай Боже, далі буде Латвія. Запам'ятайте нашу зустріч. Латвія, Литва, Естонія, Молдова. Далі буде Грузія.
Most people who's using baton, hammer, motor gestures, they have different names, are people who speak from their hearts, who are energetic, passionate, or perhaps even frustrated. I think Volodymyr Zelenskyy is showing all that, and those emotions transfers through the gestures to the audience, making them more engaged, more interested, and more focused on your speech.
Гарантии что? Мы в НАТО? Нет. У нас есть ядерное оружие? Нет.
He's also using his body language to connect to just words. Are we in NATO? No. By backing up, he's showing that he's not aggressive, authoritative, he's neutral and humble. And it is only the best public speakers in the world that both connect words and body language when they are speaking. We talked about baton or hammer gestures. This, what's coming up right here, is called deictic gestures, sometimes also referred to as pointing or space gestures.
Не хочешь сейчас уйти? Сядь со мной за стол переговоров. Я свободен. Сядь со мной, только не на 30 метров, как с Макроном, Шольцем и так далее, как их принимают.
Deictic or space gestures are used to point out imaginary or real objects in a room. Here he's using these kind of gestures to visually create an imaginary negotiation table, pointing out where different political leaders are sitting, and also pointing out the space between him and the Russian president in this case. And by using deictic gestures like this, you are visualizing your message and making it easier for the audience to understand what you are saying. I think this is extremely impressive, because visualization is something that politicians mostly use in terms of words, but they're not showing the audience with gestures or body language. And that's really important to do. When you want to reach out with your message, use body language connected with gestures and connect that to the words and phrases that you are saying. And that is how you will not only convince them of your message, but hopefully use your message to inspire them to something else, something better, like Volodymyr Zelenskyy. The last clip I want to show you is how he's using rhetoric in communication in everyday life. Yeah, like here when he is visiting the injured people from the war at a Ukrainian hospital. Polite, humble, creating respect by just being the president, but not an authoritative president, a kind and polite president. A president that I would love to have. Look at this right here. Look at how fantastic this is. What kind of other president have you seen standing with his hands humbly against his body, smiling, tilting his head to the side, which is a way of creating empathy when you're speaking to someone and building trust? Who else has done something like this? It's amazing. And I really want you with this video to understand the impact he will have on education in rhetoric and communication. What he is doing right now will truly echo through eternity. He will be the prime example of how a great leader should be. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and this tribute to Volodymyr Zelenskyy, as well as learned something from him. And I want you to learn from him right now, because we need people right now who can communicate and reach out with their message. Good messages. Thank you all so much for watching, and let's just hope that this war ends soon.
How do you want the Ukrainian people to remember you?
A human being that loved life to the fullest, and loved his family, and loved his motherland. Definitely not a hero. I want people to take me as I am, a regular human.